Vagabond, I am extremely happy to have you on this show. Not only because I'm super happy to see you do well, but I doubt you remember this. But 2017 Texas Showdown, you eliminated me from a bracket, and I think I don't remember. I don't remember if it was like the Red Bull bracket or if it was like the main bracket. But
Yeah.
as I was losing, like in my mind, I was just spiraling out of control about like how bad I was. And immediately after I lost, you turned to me and you like gave me like a Christian side hug and you were like, "Dude, you're good, man. Don't get too nervous." And then you showed me some tech and I walked away with a pep in my step feeling good. So, I think you were an amazing human
And
being.
I remember, and I appreciate that. I actually do remember that interaction because you asked me about Punk right after that set, and I told you the way he whiff punishes is at the time. This is what I was thinking, right? I was thinking he whiff punishes based on proximity, but to
Mhm.
be honest, it's just his game awareness and reactions. He whiff punishes because at the time everybody was so impressed with Punk. He was like the new blood, right? He was
Yeah.
winning all the tournaments, winning everything, and nobody could figure out how he was so consistent with his whiff punishing.
Hmm.
And so we were discussing that. I do remember that conversation, that interaction.
Yeah. No, man. It ever since then I've been a big fan because like it's very easy to just be like, all right, I'll just let this guy be sad. But you were like super uplifting, super supportive. So, and I remember we
I
played a shit
appreciate that.
ton online ever since then. So,
Yes, yes, we did for sure. I remember your Karen.
hell yeah.
I used to play this other Karen a lot too, Urban Flow at the time.
Oh
I used to
yeah,
play him a lot.
yeah. Urban Flow.
And
That's my
so yeah, I definitely remember our sets.
hell yeah,
Good
dude.
times, man. Street Fighter Five was a pretty good game. It was okay, honestly. It wasn't my favorite, but it was all right. It got better towards the end, but I kind of stopped playing when it got good.
Yeah. When did you like? Do you remember what season you stopped playing around?
So I stopped playing because I stopped traveling to tournaments around. It was like probably 2018.
Mm.
So I traveled 2017, and then 2018 was when I kind of stopped, and I kind of stopped playing altogether around the time when Kage came out. So it was the
Mm.
start of season four, I think, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the start of season four. So that's when I just completely stopped playing, and I stopped playing for like around almost 3 years.
Hmm. Do you mind me asking? And if you're comfortable sharing, like, what caused you to stop playing?
Well, just family stuff, honestly. I was overseas for a while
Mm.
and I just didn't even get a chance to really play because I'm the type of person where if I'm not competing, if I'm not being competitive, I don't I'm really competitive, right? So if I'm
Mm.
not practicing and playing for the sake of competition, I see no point in playing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I wasn't traveling or I wasn't competing in any tournaments, and where I was at the time there was like the infrastructure was pretty bad.
Hmm.
And so there, I couldn't even play online because Street Fighter 5 didn't have the best net code either,
Yeah.
right? So it was just kind of all of those factors made me just not want to play. I was just playing single player games at the time, playing stuff like Ghost of Tsushima and like Sekiro and stuff like that.
Hell yeah. Dude, I feel like you and I have a very similar life experience because I kind of stopped traveling as well in 2018 and was playing single player
Really?
games. So I feel like our brains are
Yeah,
wired
for
very
sure.
much similarly.
That's awesome. Hey, sometimes you gotta, step away from the fighting games and all the sweat lords and all that crazy stuff and just play some single player games, You want to have a game on the side that you can kind of just take a break from mentally, especially a game like Street Fighter 6 that's extremely taxing, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And just
100%.
play something else on the side to kind of just, detox, right?
100%. 100%. So let me ask you about like your beginning in the FGC. Like, what got you into fighting games, or like what was your first like FGC experience, as it were?
Okay, this is an awesome question. I get asked this quite a lot, but I love telling this story every time. Well, I grew up playing fighting games with I have two siblings. They're
Mm.
older. I'm the youngest one. So we grew up playing like, the classic fighting games like Street Fighter 2, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, all of the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast fighting games. We were never good at them
Hmm.
until like Third Strike, where we kind of started to be a little competitive. We started watching like, the Japanese footage and Japanese players, and at the time I was in Houston, Texas, and we
Mm.
we went to There was an arcade back then called Planet Zero. It was a really famous arcade. It was like the only one in Texas. I think this was before UFO Arcade in Austin. This
Mhm.
one was in Houston. But so we kind of, my siblings and I, we kind of started playing Third Strike seriously and just learning the mechanics and stuff on a higher level. But we never really got good enough to compete. We didn't go to any tournaments for it. Then, when I was around 10 or 11 years old, I went to my first tournament. And I went with my brothers, and this was for Guilty Gear Accent Core. So, this was
Ooh.
the original Accent Core before Plus and before Plus R. So this is like the original version that was extremely broken.
Yeah.
Slayer and Eddie and these characters were busted, right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the old accent core, but yeah, like it was very unbalanced.
Yeah.
And so I went there and I didn't feel confident in competing. So I was like, I'm gonna just let my brothers compete and I'll just play casual sets versus players because there are some good Houston players there and that were actually competing in the tournament. So my brothers, they did pretty good, considering that we only played each other, so they had no matchup experience outside of just the characters, the three of us played. And so they did pretty good. But me, I was just playing casuals, and people were asking me, they're like, "Hey, where are you from? And like, when did you start playing?" And I'm like, "I've been playing for a while. I just don't travel. This is our first tournament." So that was probably 2008. I'd
Mm.
say like 2008 or six. Actually, it might be 2006. Around there, though. That was my first experience. So it was playing Guilty Gear Accent Core, and so people were like, they're calling me the 11-year-old monster. I wasn't even that good at the time, but I really wasn't that good. But they're just hyping me up. Everybody loves a young kid that can do a combo or two.
100%. Uh, so from there, and I know you said you and your brothers played a lot of Third Strike. Like, what happened that caused you from being like a quote unquote casual player that would just go to tournaments to play casuals to like a top player? Like, what did you have like somebody outside of your brothers that like taught you how to play the game? Like, what happened that like got you to where you are essentially now?
It kind of, I guess it was kind of a natural progression. So what happened was we never really wanted to like compete. Like that wasn't really a thought for us. We just kind of played amongst each other. We'd get salty and we'd rage at each other, right? And talk trash to each other, and just it was kind of like brothers thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So until we started to really watch some of the high level footage, like watching like the SBO. Do you remember that
Yeah,
Togeki
hundred
SBO, the
percent.
Japan tournaments, right? So we used to watch like the SBO videos on Guilty Gear and watch like the Third Strike tournaments and stuff like that. So it kind of didn't start like I'd say we wanted to be competitive, but we never took that next step to actually start being competitive. We'd still play amongst each other. Then when Street Fighter 4 came out was when I went to like my first official tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I was in high school at the time. And so it kind of, I guess the drive was just there of me playing online versus other players.
Yeah.
And so, I expanded, broadened my horizons from just playing two people to playing a whole bunch of people in Street Fighter 4, right? I never did travel much for offline sessions or anything. I couldn't drive and I didn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
burden anybody else. So by the time Street Fighter 4 became like the new fighting game, right? My brothers kind of stopped playing. They started doing their own thing in life. So I was the only one still playing fighting games. And it was a passion. It still is, right? Of course, it's one
Mm-hmm.
of my only passions in life, right? So so I guess it was around the start of Street Fighter 4 where I went to a tournament and I won my first Street Fighter 4 tournament that I entered. It was
Whoa.
versus Jan. And,
Whoa.
and
In
so
Houston, yeah.
yeah, Houston. So then they're like, "What the hell? Like, where are you from?" And a friend of mine from Houston, he goes by Silent Assassin. His name is Justin. He told me about this tournament happening at it was like a Dave and Buster's. It was called Smiley's. And so he was like, "There's this tournament going down. I see you playing online. I know you're from Houston. You should come out." And so I did, and I ended up winning, right? And so since then, that kind of made me want to keep going. And then I met a lot of good players online too, like Street Fighter 4 players, like Punk. I've known Punk since I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? He used to go by Mustard Ken, like, and that was his gamer tag back then. And so we've known each other for a long time. And Smug and a few other players I started to get really cool with around Super Street Fighter 4. And so playing these good players, it also made me want to see how far I can take my game and take it to the next level. And winning that first tournament, it made me realize that, hey, I'm good enough to compete with some of these great players, right?
Hell yeah. No, that's awesome. Especially since like, it's everybody like the general FGC population's first tournament is always an 0-2. So to win your first tournament, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I guess beginner's luck, right?
uh so so you're mostly just kind of like you just grew up playing then. Like did you have like an FGC mentor of any kind? Like was there anybody who taught you how to play like once you started taking stuff seriously?
Sorry, you totally asked that question earlier, and
Oh,
I
no,
went
it's
on
all
a
good.
tangent, and I forgot to answer that part of the question.
No, no, no.
But
I asked you like 80
a
questions at once,
mentor?
so.
No, no, you're fine. I have like long, extremely descriptive and detailed answers. It's a bad habit, but I try to be as detailed as I can be. But let's see. So a mentor, I'd say, other than just other than my brothers, there is one mentor I had that kind of helped me when I felt like I was plateauing, right? I
Mhm.
felt like my skill level was becoming stagnant. I wasn't really improving much. There is one mentor I can say for sure. He helped me kind of understand more of the intricate parts of the game. Like, let's say, certain like this was in Street Fighter 4, and he helped me kind of elevate my game to the next level. And this person, you guys probably know him. He goes by Hamad, White Tower
Yeah.
Hamad. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was playing Guilty Gear for a while. He used to play Fei Long. So he's a really, really smart dude. Like he's extremely smart. And so he kind of he would give me this advice and certain things that I wasn't doing in my gameplay. And he's like, you need to work on this. He's like, and he'd always be very encouraging as well. He wouldn't like put you down. He'd be like, you're a really good player. You're amazing. You're there with some of these best players in the world, but you need to start doing this, and you need to start implementing this in your gameplay and start thinking of the game like so. It was very intricate and very detailed what he would tell me, but it helped me kind of see things that I wasn't able to identify on my own, right? So Hamad,
Mm.
I'd say, was definitely a mentor for me.
No, that's awesome. I got to know him when I started traveling for Street Fighter 5, and he's a great human being. So
Yes,
it's
for sure.
awesome. Yeah, it's awesome
Amazing
to
guy.
hear. It's awesome to hear. I remember, I think the first tournament in Texas that I went to was an absolute battle that he was in like top 8 for, I think,
Okay, there you
in
go. Yeah,
Dallas.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Absolute battle in Dallas. Yep, that's right. I've been to a couple of those.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
sir. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. He's awesome. He's a great person.
dude, man, that's so cool. Especially since I haven't heard Hamad's name in a while. Although I've seen him start streaming, like every once in a
Yes, he
while with
does
Street Fighter
stream.
6.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You should check out his streams. He's always trolling and stuff. He's a hilarious dude. For sure.
Hell
He's a
yeah.
cool guy.
Hell yeah, dude, that's so cool. So in learning how to play fighting games, of course, like you said, you started plateauing. Uh, what are some of the challenges that you faced in fighting games? Like you said, you started plateauing. Like what exactly started happening that you felt yourself plateauing that you needed Hamad's help to improve?
Okay, so let's see. So me personally, not to brag or anything, but I always feel like I pick up games fast.
Hmm.
But my weakness is I'm able to pick up a game, learn the mechanics, get good at it fast. But then after a certain point, I start to not know where to go, not know where to improve on,
Hmm.
right? And so that's when I feel like other players start to catch up. And now I feel like, damn, I'm being left behind, right?
Hmm.
Because I feel like my gameplay isn't improving. So I feel like it's a matter of um, not like it's a matter of looking at your gameplay, analyzing it beyond just surface level,
Hmm.
right? So beyond just the obvious stuff like I'm not whiff punishing enough, I'm not anti-airing, or I missed this, I need to optimize this, so it's beyond that. It's more of tendencies, understanding what the other opponent or the other character likes to do. And so it's more of like these like intricate situations and scenarios that I feel like it takes me a while to kind of comprehend them. And so with somebody like Hamad pointing them out to me, it makes it easier for me to pick up on certain things, right? So
Gotcha.
it's more of like the intricate parts of my gameplay that I fail to. After a certain while, I feel like, okay, I need to figure out how I can improve now. And so what I do to kind of assist in that is, and this is what I've been doing for Street Fighter 6 as well, especially after like a tournament loss or something. You know, it sucks having to go back and rewatch your loss, right? Especially if it's like a close set, and or especially if it's a set in like top eight or to win the tournament or something. But I always try to, swallow my pride, swallow that jagged pill, and
Hmm.
just rewatch the set and analyze it, right? And that's what I feel like a lot of players should do as well, is just go back and analyze their sets. Another thing that helps me improve a lot when I feel like I'm plateauing is, I study a lot of top players, other, like for example Luke players. I play Luke in this game, right?
Hmm.
In Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
So I'm watching like Bon John, I'm watching NL, I'm watching the American Lukes as well, like Dual Kevin, Noah, and I'm seeing how these players are playing certain matchups and certain strategies they're doing. So I X copy a lot of stuff. Like all my stuff is, I'd say a lot of it, 90% of it is me copying other people's setups, and I just implement them into my own gameplay.
Yeah. No,
So
imitation is the greatest form of
studying,
flattery, right?
there you go, right? So studying top players and their and how they approach matchups and stuff like that is really helpful. And I think that can benefit anybody.
100%. So with learning how to like self assess and improve from there, like are there any skills or concepts that you've learned in fighting games that you've been able to apply to like other areas of your life?
Let's see. So I feel like instead of learn in fighting games, I feel like it's more of, for me personally, it's more of other things I've learned in life that will help in fighting games versus
Hmm.
stuff I've learned in fighting games that will help in real life, right? And I feel like a lot of it, and I've had this conversation with friends before, and we always joke about it because there used to be this guy back in the Street Fighter 4 days. His name was Kaizen Master, and he was like this super deep analytical thinker, and we kind of just clown on him because we were young, we were in
Hmm.
high school, and we just talk shit, right? And so, but this guy had some really good points, and he made this really funny point this one time, and we still remember it. Like me and like three or four other friends, and he's like, oh, he would say stuff like in this crazy tone. He'd be like, oh, by the way you're playing, I can tell you listen to rap music. So he'd say the brand. So he'd say funny stuff like that, and some of it would make sense, and some of it would just be like, "Yo, what is this dude on something?" Like I want what he's on, right? Like but a lot of that stuff, I feel like, as I'm becoming, I'm getting older. I'm 27 now, right?
Hmm.
And I have a family now too. And so, as I'm growing up, and I feel like some of the stuff I'm having to deal with in life, more responsibilities, having to be more patient with a lot of things, I feel like that's translating into the gameplay as well. So patience from my real life scenario and situation kind of helps me be more patient when I'm playing and fighting games.
Hmm.
Right. And so if I was to answer your question about what fighting game skills, um, I mean, I don't know, maybe more discipline.
Hmm.
So being able to, like, like I said earlier, swallow my pride and kind of watch my replays right after a loss helps me accept certain things more in life if they don't go my way, right?
Hmm.
So stuff like that, you can say for sure translates, vice versa, real life to fighting games and fighting games to real life. So
Oh, that's awesome. So while we're since you just mentioned like you're getting older, you have a family now, so like priorities are changing. How do you balance the family life with grinding out a competitive fighting game to the point where like you're winning tournaments or getting like top eights and top 16s in Street Fighter 6?
it's tough, man. It's tough, and I hate making this excuse because, in a sense it is an excuse, but at the same time it's reality.
Hmm.
And the fact that, because I work a full-time job, so I work 40 hours a week, I have a family, right? And so I have, more responsibilities outside of just the just family stuff. Like I have my parents and stuff too, so I'm
Hmm.
having to juggle a lot of things in life right now. And so it's tough, but I try to, like the limited time I do have, I try to use it wisely, right? So work smarter, not harder,
Yeah.
right? So I get like an hour or maybe an hour and a half every weekday to just my own time, right? When the family's asleep or they're doing their own thing.
Mhm.
And that's when I can grind the game. And I try to use that time to analyze other players' matches or play certain matchups, invite like top level players of that character so I can learn that matchup and focus on one matchup at a time. And so and honestly that's it. Just on the weekends is when I can do most of my grinding, right? And I'll play
Gotcha.
ranked and stuff like that. But even at work, and honestly, like this isn't good, but there's downtime at work, right? And I'm at work watching Luke replays.
Hmm.
So that's how I'm able to kind of stay on top of everything. At the same time, I play with a lot of strong players, right? And I'm always they're inviting me, I'm inviting them, right? So quote unquote, I have that I guess top player privilege that they'll join me and I'll join their lobby, right? And so that helps me learn these matchups faster because I'm playing these players who play the character at such a high level.
Gotcha.
So it's just working smarter, working more efficiently with the time I have.
Gotcha. No, I ever since I started working from home, I've always like had like something FGC on my other monitor, so I totally get that. Uh,
Yeah, there you go.
no, and that's really cool. So you, so like I know for especially since things have started going more online with like Street Fighter 4, 5, and 6. You mentioned like you're playing more people, or like you're kind of cultivating who you play, like you're like focusing on who you play instead of just like playing randomly on ranked. Has has like losing the emphasis on ranked like help you improve as a player, or do you still like really focus on rank when you do have the time to do it?
Uh, so initially with Street Fighter 6, rank wasn't a big deal, but since the MR system came out, man, it's become like it's the MR system is toxic,
Yeah.
honestly. It really is. It becomes like it sucks, to admit it. And I'll admit I'm a I'm one of the people that get kind of addicted to the MR grind, right? And
Mhm.
it's bad because then ranked at the same time it's not necessarily like great for sometimes you develop bad habits playing ranked because you're just trying to get a win for points, right?
Yeah.
You'll do whatever it takes to get that win, and sometimes that means playing really impatient or scrubby or doing some desperate tactics and stuff like that. So when I do get the time, ever since I got like a little over 2000 MR, I've kind of just been taking it chill.
Mhm.
Like I've hit 2090, I've hit close to 2100, and then I drop down and then I take a break. And so the grind hasn't been as extreme. And I try not to grind for too long, at least ranked, because I feel like after a certain point, if you start losing, man, you're gonna keep losing, and it becomes like a domino effect. It keeps getting worse, or a snowball
Yeah.
effect, right? The snowball keeps getting bigger, and so you keep losing points, and then at that point, you're just like, all right, let me just take a break. But your pride doesn't allow you to take a break. So
Yeah.
the new MR system is kind of toxic, I'll be honest, and I'm a victim of it. But at the same time, if I try to only play like a couple hours over the weekend of ranked, and then I try to use the rest of my time to play versus other good players in custom lobby sets. So,
Gotcha.
just the fact that just the fact that Street Fighter 6 has like the best netcode of any Street Fighter game so far, is a blessing, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
able to play West Coast players like JB and 801 Strider and a lot of these other good friends of mine. I'm able to play them like with great, uh, you know, online conditions. It's not super laggy, and like I'm even able to play. JB has a younger brother. He plays Guile. His name is Lex. I
Mm.
play him a lot of times too, and he has a great Guile.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, he's in the UK, by the way. So
Oh,
I'm
cool.
able to play him too.
Oh, that's awesome. I have so one quick question. It is 9:01 on my end. Do you have a couple? Do you have a couple more minutes for a couple more questions?
Yeah, for sure, for
Okay.
sure. I joined late, so I figured since I wasted some of your time, let me make up for it.
Nah, man, it's a talk show. I was just talking, so it's
Yeah, yeah.
no
Hey,
time
I'm here to
wasted.
talk. I got some time to kill.
Okay, awesome.
Sounds great. Yeah, we can talk.
Okay, so a question from the chat that I think is a good question for now is from SKBZI. He asked, "Do you still get really, or like, do you get really salty when you lose today?"
Salt is one of those things that you can never escape. The salt will always be there. It's just a matter of now that, being a family man and all, you kind of have to control it a little more
Mhm.
versus in the past, right? But yeah, of course, everybody gets salty. I can't think of a single person who's competitive, who plays the game competitively, that doesn't get salty. Like that just in my opinion doesn't exist, right? They'll be able to
100%.
mask the salt, they'll be able to hide it. But if you're competitive and this game means something to you, when you lose, you're gonna get salty. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do get salty. For sure. I get salty as hell sometimes.
Yeah, man. Salt's the spice of life, right?
That's right.
Okay, so I want to talk about the switch from Street Fighter 5 to Street Fighter 6, right? I know you had mentioned that the very launch of Street Fighter 5, the game was okay, but a lot of the game also wasn't okay. Uh, and now we have something like Street Fighter 6 where it launched in like quite possibly like the best condition that a modern Street
For
Fighter
sure.
game has launched. How
Oh
do
yeah.
you feel with Street Fighter 6? Like, are you liking the game compared to some of the previous games? Like, how are you generally feeling?
Um, Street Fighter 6, I think is a great game. As far as a vanilla iteration of a game, of a Street Fighter game goes, it's the best we've seen in probably forever, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'd say I definitely enjoy it more than Street Fighter 5. And Street Fighter 5 was fun in the beginning, but
Hmm.
I'd say it was more unbalanced than Street Fighter 6 is now. So
Hmm.
I feel like Street Fighter 6 is a great vanilla iteration. There are changes I'd like to see in the game and some nerfs to characters, including my own Luke. I
Hmm.
feel I know a few nerfs off the top of my head that Luke needs as well. But certain nerfs to some of the top tiers like JP, Ken, and Luke, and some of the drive rush, like the drive mechanics, like the perfect parry and the drive rush, they can be tweaked in my opinion. You can leave drive impact the same.
Hmm.
I think drive impact, you don't see it as much because it's a huge risk, right?
Hmm.
Especially in high level play. So I'd say don't change drive impact, but definitely change the way perfect parry and the way drive rush works. And if you want me to go into detail on how I'd like them to be
Do it.
changed, I can. But so I'll try to make it quick. Drive parry, this is the perfect parry mechanic. The scaling and everything is fine. The startup is fine too. What they need to do is they need to have parry if you don't get the perfect parry. They should have more recovery on that to where you can punish it easier for a person who misses the perfect parry,
Hmm.
right? Because a regular parry I think has 7 frames of recovery when you let go of it. It needs to have more recovery frames, so it's more of a risk attached to doing a parry. So let's say they mistime a perfect parry and they parry a jab. When they release the parry, you should be able to punish them.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and because normally they can keep holding the parry and they'll get thrown, but if they release the parry, there needs to be more recovery frames to where you can get a better punish or even punish them, right? So
Mm.
maybe that's, in my opinion, that's one change that would make perfect parry more balanced without completely destroying it, right? Because some people just want it gone, they want it destroyed, neutered completely, right?
Mm.
So I don't want to completely destroy the mechanic, but that's one way to balance it. Another thing for drive rush, they should make it to where maybe drive rush from a parry instead of using one drive gauge or one drive bar, it needs to use two drive bars
Mm.
and make it a punish counter state if you hit them out of it, something like that.
Yeah. I agree with the drive rush. I don't think I agree with the parry, but that's opinion based, so we can have that discussion some
Yeah,
other
yeah,
time.
no, that's fair. That's fair. That's totally fair. That's just something I thought of at the top of my head.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a crazy idea or not, but yeah, I mean, that's what discussion is for.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you don't agree with it. That
Yeah. No,
makes it more interesting.
I think if you didn't lose drive meter when you're blocking normally, I would agree with your change way more. Right? Because at the end of the day, like you kind of need to use drive parry
That's
to
fair.
manage your meter.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, 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 for sure.
Uh
That's a good point.
yeah, but with that said though, I would love to see drive rush cost more. And I would also love to see drive rush not eat inputs.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it's funny because I thought they patched that out, but I'm still missing so many inputs because of the startup of Dry Rush, man. Like there
Yeah.
are so many times when I'll try to neutral jump when I'm thinking DJ's gonna drive rush so I can cross him up with a neutral jump medium kick or something, right? He's
Hmm.
gonna drive rush under me, and my neutral jump doesn't come out at all.
Yeah.
and he's just standing there and I just get hit by something, stuff like that. So the inputs for sure overall, like if it was one change, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's literally the biggest
Hmm.
change I think everybody can agree with is the inputs. They need to make the super reversal on the wake up. They need to make the reversal window a little bigger
Hmm.
because you miss supers so much,
Yep.
and they need to tighten up some of these inputs because man, the game has a really hard time reading some of these inputs. The reading is bad. It's pretty shitty,
Yeah,
to be
I'm happy.
honest.
I'm happy to hear you say that because those are issues that I've been getting frustrated with. So hearing this is very validating.
Oh no, trust me. I mean, I'm in like a Discord with JB and like Punk and Smug, and they have the same complaints all the time, man.
Okay.
They say the same thing.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
So
not
it's
too
not only
scrubby.
you and
Yes.
me. Yeah. Nah, you're good. You're good. Everybody's having that problem.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, we could discuss like nerfs and buffs and all that, but I want to get to the G League
Yeah.
because that was, if I'm not mistaken, like your
Mhm.
first like really big win in Street Fighter 6, right?
Yes. 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 The first big one with like a bunch of the best players in the country, right?
Yeah. So how did
Yeah.
that whole tournament feel like when you were working your way up to number one? Like, were you like getting increasingly nervous, or was it like you were just kind of finding your zen state and everything was working out? How was that experience?
Well, so like I have pretty bad anxiety,
Mhm.
honestly. So my anxiety gets really bad, especially well, mostly during the start of the tournament. So usually my first set is a little shaky, but it
Mhm.
starts to get as I get more comfortable, it starts to lessen. The anxiety starts to get a little easier to deal with the further I get in tournament, right? So my first set was actually Punk. But recently, I lost to Punk like 6 tournaments in a row, man. I
Mhm.
made so many top eights in TNS and Can Opener. I got second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh. I lost to Punk in so many of these tournaments, but I figured out, and like there was a Can Opener like the Tuesday before G League, right? And so I beat Punk in winners finals, and then I barely lost to him in losers finals.
Mhm.
Um, so sorry, in winner semis, and then I barely lost him in losers finals. So I figured out, I was like, I felt like I had a good understanding of what Punk likes to do and what he doesn't like to deal with. So it's kind of like a player more than a character matchup thing.
Mhm.
So I had to play Punk first, and so I beat Punk 3-1. The matches were still close, but I felt pretty good about that win just because I was comfortable playing Punk as a player. I still don't like playing Cammy. I think if I was to say Luke has a bad matchup, that'd probably be his only slightly bad matchup in the game,
Mhm.
Cammy. But outside of that, yeah. So then I had to play Adam after that. And my match versus Adam was a little more. It was kind of tight. It went down to the third match, but I won 2 rounds straight. Or sorry, not the third match, the fifth match, I think. Right.
Mhm.
It was first to three, right? So it went down to the fifth match or the sixth match. I can't count right now, but
Yeah.
the last match. So the score was 2-2. It went down to the last match. Let's keep it simple. And so I beat him 2 rounds straight, but it was kind of close. So the thing about Idom is that it's hard to get a read on him. He loves
Mhm.
doing wake up like 4 frame, but then when you think he's gonna do a wake up 4 frame, he'll just do like a super or something when you're trying
Mhm.
to media him. So it's hard to get a read on Idom. And at the same time, he's a momentum monster. So once he gets started, it's hard to, you know, uh, stop his
Mhm.
momentum. So that was a close set. I was a little nervous going into that last match versus Idom. I'm like, damn, this is kind of close, man. And honestly, I think Luke beats Manon, so he's doing great for it being a bad matchup for her. So I was like, shit, I can't lose this. So I beat Idom in a close set. Then I had to fight because it was only an 8-man invitational.
Mhm.
So the way the G League worked was Bum had a series of tournaments called City of Mayhem, and
Mhm.
you got points for placing top. I think it was top 8 or top 12 or something like top 13 in these tournaments. So I was like in the top 7 or 8 players with the highest points, right? And the rest of the players were the people in the G League, the Invitational. So I actually won one of those tournaments too, but that one didn't have Punk in it. So I was like,
Mhm.
damn, I got to win a tournament with Punk in it, right?
Yeah.
But so after Adam, I had to face JB, and JB is one of my training partners. We play all the time, and and he plays Rashid, and he Luke beats Rashid too, and he
Mm,
hates that matchup so much. So he hates playing me, and I'm always comfortable playing Rashid because it's I can just jump in on him, and he
mhm.
can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So he picked Cammy in winners finals, and I'm like, all right. I know he's been practicing a Cammy. I've played his Cammy before that. I just wasn't sure if he'd actually bring her out in tournament
Mhm,
since he knows that's a hard matchup for me, right? So I beat him 3-1. It was kind of convincing. It wasn't too one-sided. It was still kind of close some of the matches. So I beat him 3-1. And then I was in grand finals, and JB had to fight Punk in losers finals, and he beat Punk in a close set. And then I had to face JB again in grand finals, right?
mhm.
And so it went down. I was up 2 matches, and I got so like I could, uh, what's that term they use with the sharks? You could smell the blood or see
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
blood. Yeah, so I was like, I'm right there. I'm about to win this tournament. I'm gonna make like $1,500, win this trophy. I'm like, I'm feeling good. I've played JB before, so I got really impatient, and he actually brought it back and reset the bracket. It
Mhm.
was the last round, and I tried to wake up super twice, and it didn't come out. I got hit by some overhead into a full combo. And I'm just like, ah, shit. And then going into the bracket reset, he won another match. So he won 4 in a row. And I'm just like, fuck, did he download me? And then so I'm like, let me slow it down. I took a second. I'm like, let me breathe. Let me get the nerves out. I was starting to feel real nervous now with the bracket reset. I'm like, ah, shit. So it was a great set, right? But I had to slow it down, and I realized what I wasn't doing was where Rashid has strings in his, or sorry, gaps in his block strings. I wasn't
Mhm.
interrupting those, and I was letting him get frame advantage and his turn all the time. So I just kind of started interrupting those, and like the momentum shifted in my favor, and I won 3 in a row to win the
Mhm.
tournament. So it was a close set for sure. After the reset, especially, I was like, damn, I was getting a little nervous. I'm like, uh-oh, he might win this. He's coming back. And he got this crazy comeback for the reset too. And I'm just like, God dang. I'm like, and I had the stream chat open in a tab, and I just look at the stream chat. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
no.
let's see these dudes' reactions. They're probably like, and that was making me more mad. I'm like, damn, like it was so close. Why'd I let him get a crazy comeback on me? So yeah, I do get salty going back to that question, but yeah. So yeah. So it was honestly it was a great experience being able to play some of the best players in the country. Like that bracket had Knuckle Do, Idom, Punk, JB, Dual Kevin, Noah. Like it had literally all the best players outside of a few of the West Coast players.
Yeah.
But so it was awesome. It was great. I even won a trophy. So
Hell yeah.
I had a great time. It was a fun little invitational for sure.
Hell yeah, dude. And I know sometimes, like, especially like you were saying, like you weren't able to beat like somebody like Punk, or you would always have issues with somebody. Like, were you like when you won? Like, was there anything that was holding you back before you got your tournament win? Like, was there anything mentally that was like, oh man, I just need to get a win, and then like I'll unlock like level like my brain or something? Like, was there anything that was like kind of holding you back before you won that is now feeling different?
Yeah, I'd say, like you mentioned, right? Punk was definitely one of the things I felt like was holding me back because at that point, I beat literally every top player in tournament, everyone except for Punk.
Mm-hmm.
Like I beat Knuckle Dew in a set. I beat Idom before. I beat Mena. I beat Kaba. Like every single top player except for Punk, I just couldn't beat him. And I've had some close sets, and then I've had some that were just straight washes, like
Mm-hmm.
like 3-0s. I got destroyed like 6 rounds straight in a couple sets, right? And I'm just like I can't figure this dude out. But being able to overcome that kind of like that mental block of just being able to beat Punk, the only person who I hadn't been able to beat in a tournament set yet. Then I was like, all right, now that I've overcome this, I was feeling confident. I was feeling good about my gameplay overall. Like, all right, maybe I am, getting past my plateau. Maybe my gameplay, my development isn't as stagnant as I'm thinking it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to give myself a little more credit. One thing I do is I'm a little hard on myself, right? Like I don't give myself enough credit, and I'm always like, you're your own worst or best critic, right? So I'm
Yeah.
I'm definitely I'm definitely like a little. negative about it, I guess.
Hmm.
But that's something I feel like I need to kind of work on as well. There's things I think about that I need to work on as a player every day that can affect my game plan I can improve in. So that's one of the things I need to be a little more confident, right? I lack confidence in a lot of these situations, confidence in myself. And sometimes I want to blame the way, I was nurtured and upbringing and, having high expectations all the time and this and
Hmm.
that. But I'm like, that's an excuse. I need to just work on it myself and work on me as a person and not let other factors affect or cloud my judgment, right?
Yeah. No, and man, again, going back to how our brains are wired so similarly, like a big lesson that I've been working on this year is like counting your wins, right? Because like we're
Yeah,
always like so
for
tough on
sure.
ourselves, like you
For
were
sure.
saying, that like it tends to
Hmm.
wear us down to the point where like,
It does.
it gets bad. So counting
Yeah,
counting
yeah,
your
it
wins
does.
is
It
definitely
does.
like a
It does.
big deal.
For sure. I agree. And I feel like anybody that feels that way, that feel as though, just because they didn't, make top eight or didn't make top 16 or whatever, they should still feel proud that they got that far. Or
Hmm.
even if, let's say, there's somebody who goes 0 and 2 all the time, and now they went 1 and 2 or 2 and 2, they should still, feel proud that they did good, right? And this
Hmm.
is for players that are struggling or that are having a harder time, it's even for top players, it's baby steps, right?
Yeah.
You can't expect to go 0 and 2 and then win a tournament, or you can't expect to make get seventh and fifth and then get first right away.
Hmm.
Sometimes you got to climb the ladder, right? So,
Yeah,
so for
100%.
sure, anybody who feels that way, they should definitely be more, you know, stop being so tough on themselves and be, like you said, count your wins.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I have two more questions for you.
Sure, sure, sure.
One is from our chat. Is I know you mentioned like Punk was like the one person you couldn't beat. Like, is there anybody else? Like, who's the toughest opponent you've ever faced, ever? Like in your fighting game career, not just Street Fighter Six.
Fighting game career. All right, so I'll tell you. I'll give you two answers. I'll give you one for Street Fighter Five, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you one for Street Fighter Six.
Okay.
For Street Fighter Five, man, this was during the Red Bull tournament when I beat Daigo, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
people first found out about me. It was for the Red Bull. It was before like the CPT North American Finals. They had the Red Bull Last Chance qualifier.
Yeah.
And so that's the one I think RB won, and then he like went far in the CPT finals or whatever. But anyways, in that tournament, I beat Daigo, right, and I was feeling like, okay, I guess I'm pretty good. I beat one of the Japanese gods. I was feeling kind of, I guess, hubris,
Yeah.
right? I was feeling too good, like I'm that dude, right? And so then the next morning, Bonchan was in that tournament too, and I think he got third or second. He didn't make the cut for because the only one player qualified out of that bracket.
Yeah.
So I got fifth. I think Snake Eyes got fourth, and like Bonchan got third or second or something like that. And RB won that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was like, and the next morning they had this VIP lounge in the back behind like the main stage that had like three or four setups. And so since it was me and Punk. And so I was hanging out with Punk that weekend. And they were like, "Oh, y'all are part of the competitors and y'all made top eight or whatever. You guys can go ahead, go to the back. We have some top players sitting there." And so Bonchan was sitting there, and I've never faced him before. That was my first time, seeing him or getting a chance to play versus him. And I'm just like, all right, I know this guy from Street Fighter 4. He had a really good Sagat. I feel pretty good about this Nash matchup, Nash versus Nikali.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, let me play him. Man, he beat the hell out of me. Like he beat the living dog shit out of me, dude. And so he beat me. I think it was 7-1 or 7-2, something like that. But when I tell you those 7 matches, I think I got like 1 or 2 rounds out of 9 matches. That's how bad it was. Outside of the wins, right? Outside
Yeah.
the 2 or 1 wins, the one win I had. I think it was only one. But yeah, outside of those, I got like 1 round, dude, and I was just like, he read everything, and so I felt super demoralized because just the night before I was feeling good about beating Daigo, and then I run into this monster of a player, and I'm just like, damn, what happened? I was like, I thought I was good. And I'm like, I'm going on YouTube and I'm watching Phenom versus Bones, and I'm like, what is this guy doing that I wasn't doing? Why is he beating? And so I'm like, damn. So and he just kept he had a good read on me. Like he knew when I went for command grab, when I'd
Mhm.
go for it. He knew when I'd go for DP. He knew when I'd size my. He just read everything. Like he knew that matchup, like so well. So that was one player who really like I've never lost that bad to. The second
Mhm.
player, I'd say recently was I played Angry Bird. They were in
Mm.
LA recently, right?
Yeah.
And so I played Angry Bird and Big Bird both. So and this was a recent, like probably a week or so ago, so very recent.
Mhm.
So I played Angry Bird, and so the first time I played him, I actually beat him 10-6 in the first to 10. And then, so I had work the next morning and it was like 2 a.m. and I got to wake up at 6:30. I'm like, I got to sign off, dude. Let's play again if you're still in LA. He's like, yeah, he's like, I'll be here for a week or whatever and we can play tomorrow. And he's like, I definitely want to play more versus you. That dude went in the lab and studied or something, man, because the next day we played, damn, he beat me like it was really bad, like 30-10 or something.
Ooh, wow.
And so yeah, like really bad. And I'm just like, damn, like what happened? And he had a counter for everything I was doing the night before. He literally like studied the replays and went back and watched them, and had a counter for every one of my strategies that I was beating him with. Like I was punishing his drive rushes with crouching strong and stand medium kick. And he started doing an early drive rush jab and then press roundhouse to whiff punish my early crouching strong.
Wow.
You know, so there's so many mind game developments. I'm like, this dude's a genius. And so that was very recent where I felt like, damn, I got my ass whooped, and that was by Angry Bird.
Damn.
Yeah,
Have you ever watched his content? I watched his I think
yeah,
it was I think it was like a DJ guide that he posted on YouTube. He's
yeah,
actually
yeah,
really funny without trying to be
yeah.
funny.
He's hilarious. I know, right? For sure, for sure. Yeah, I've seen his. I tune into their streams all the time, the birds,
Yeah.
and so I'm always like talking to them in the chat and stuff. But yeah, they're hilarious. Like they're always like, and they're helpful too. They help out people in the chat. They give them
Mm,
advice. They answer like all the questions and stuff. So I feel like other more people should tune into their streams because it's very educational.
100%.
But yeah, they're hilarious, man. They talk shit and it's funny as hell.
Hell yeah. Speaking of giving other people advice, this is going to be my last interview question. For somebody who is new to fighting games, like they saw Street Fighter 6, they watched Evo, they started watching the G League, they want to get more involved with the FGC. In your opinion, what's the best way for somebody who is currently outside of the fighting game community to get into the fighting game community?
Um, Uh, I not to sound like a shill, but I'm just gonna say cop the Meta 5. No, I'm just kidding. No, don't worry
That
about
was
the
gonna be
Meta
my.
5
I
answer.
was actually gonna
No,
bring that up next. So,
I'm just trolling, man. No, the best way to get in, honestly, is just buy the game, just pick it up. Just go through some of the beginner guides and character guides and stuff, and from there on, like after you go through the guides and you get familiar with the way fighting games work, I'd say just watch a lot of footage, man. Like, and there's a bunch of guides out there. It doesn't have to be top level, because the advanced strategies, they won't make sense to you. So
Mhm.
just watch a bunch of footage and talk to players. There's so many discords and channels and servers, and there's so many outlets for players now with social media that it's really easy to get in touch with people who understand the game at a higher level and can help you out, and they're willing to help you, right? And
100%.
so not only so watch footage, just play the game, see if you like it, figure out what character you want or you want to play or you want to main, and don't worry about tiers or anything because as a new player, that stuff really won't matter. Tiers are for players at the highest level, right?
Yep.
So don't worry about tiers and just play a character, see if you enjoy the game, watch some footage, and there's a bunch of ways for you to communicate with other players who are willing to help. So just the
100%.
first and like foremost, the best thing you can do is just buy the game and just start playing like right away. And you're
Yeah.
gonna get better. Like if you're committed to it and you want to get better, You want to get good at the game, you will get good at the game. It's just a matter of how much effort you're willing to put in.
100%. 100%. Uh, that's an amazing answer. I'm super happy you answered it that way. Vagabond, dude, I am so appreciative that you took the time to come chat. I am so
Of
happy
course,
that
no problem, man. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you've had like the quote unquote FGC glow up with Street Fighter 6. I'm super happy to see you do well.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for having me. I
And
appreciate the opportunity.
nah, man, it's my pleasure and my honor and pleasure. Before we send you off, where can people find you? Like, if somebody wants to go look up Vagabond, and if they want to like see like what you've been up to and what you do, where's the best place for them to go?
Okay. Well, for starters, you have it on the screen there. My Twitter handle at vagabond_FGC. So I'm not crazy active on there, but I try to be somewhat active just outside of everything going on in my life.
Hmm.
So you can definitely hit me up on Twitter too. My DMs are open. So if you want to message me about anything, you can also I don't see I have a Twitch channel and it's partnered too, but just my current living situation right now, I can't
Yeah.
really stream at the moment. I do plan on hopefully streaming maybe in like a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years at most. I do plan on getting back into streaming. So don't worry about the Twitch for now. So Twitter, and you can I do coaching as well. That's what I was talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Let me do some shilling. So I do coaching. And so I coach all ranks, all characters. It doesn't matter. So even if you're silver, iron, gold, platinum, whatever, we can still help you. So I do coaching. I have a Metafy page. If you go to the Street Fighter page, you'll find me on there on the main page for Street Fighter 6. So I do Metafy coaching as well if you need help, and that'll be more detailed help, obviously, than
Awesome.
something like answering a Twitter question or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Any final words before we split? Is there any wisdom you would like to throw out to the people?
Uh, yeah. Luke is B tier. No, I'm just kidding. No, no. No, Luke is he's top three. But yeah, and nothing really, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. Thanks for the opportunity, and
No.
um, I plan on staying consistent. I plan on eventually dropping Luke when Akuma comes out, if Akuma is stronger than Luke. But yeah, that's the character I'm looking forward to. But other than that, yeah, just play Street Fighter 6. It's pretty good, and just have a good time, right? Don't take the MR grind too seriously.
Yeah. It's hard to do though.
Yeah, try
That's
not to.
impossible.
It is. It's very toxic, but yeah. Anyways, but that's it for me, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Uh,
Appreciate you.
yeah, thank you again for taking the time, and I'm sure I'll see you at some
Of
events
course.
next year, if not this year. So we'll
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
definitely
yeah. I'll
talk.
be at Evo for sure next year. So let's link up there.
Hell yeah, we'll go grab like a drink or something or a meal.
Sounds great. Sounds great, man. See you
Awesome, dude.
around, buddy. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.